Well, hello there and welcome to the bathroom of the dollhouse for another reading from The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and you Stelfers for December 26th, the day of the Indomitable One. That's right, and here at the top of the page is a visual representation of the day of the Indomitable One. We have us an image of, what I guess would be, an upside down crescent moon atop a pedestal of stone, perhaps. That's right. That's an adequate representation of the day of the Indomitable One. Who's to say? But maybe we'll make some kind of connotation as we get on with the read. That being said, not altogether all too important, the visual representational image. Not when it's December 26th and it's someone's birthday. No, it's important around here. Wishing you a happy birthday. So happy birthday, all right, first and foremost. But maybe this video finds you late. I don't know, days, weeks, months, whatever the case may be. But if that is the case, I just want to say I hope you had a happy birthday. That's right. But for everybody else who's joining us randomly or more ideally to celebrate, I just want to say hello, welcome, and I hope you enjoy yourself. Now, that said, before I dive in with the redirect, something I like to do around these here parts, and that's roll some dice. That's right, this is the DykASSt or birthday broadcast, so I like to live up to the namesake, but I do so more importantly for synchronicity's sake. That's right, and I just rolled a 5 and a 6 for an 11. Now, what is synchronicity, you're probably wondering? Well, my friends, a lot of times we get out in the world, get after the job or some errands, and we're very singular of focus. We got the blinders on. That's right, so we're not necessarily noticing the things going on around us. And as I've heard it told, the universe or the powers that be will put things down in our path to help us realize our goals or aspirations. But if we have the blinders on, well, we're not necessarily keen to notice those things. So this is an exercise in getting those blinders off. That's right. Putting it out for the universe to have a direct kind of correlation or sign for something we can't mistake, something we won't move past. Your daily numbers. Ostensibly something that's easier for us to pick out. That being said, you don't have to go with the numbers that I rolled for you, but it is of, paramount interest that you take your own set of dice. I don't know if it's paramount, but that being said, help you ascribe directional values to number sets and time limits with which to go in those directions. Once you've established all those things, your daily numbers, your directional values, your time limits, you set off from some place that you, that you kind of savvy, you might like to start off from. I don't know, maybe the middle of town there, wherever you might be. So let's say you get off on your first directional value, you come into your time limit. I don't know, maybe you're standing on a sidewalk next to an alley. I don't know, maybe you roll another directional value. It's telling you to go down that alley. Now, I don't know, you might be a little bit suspicious of as much, but hey, you know what? Use your best judgment. In this example, let's say you go down that alley there and you reach the end of it and you're not seeing anything, but then, hey, I don't know, maybe you notice a little alcove and you look down there and what's this? I don't know. Maybe you see a nice little hidden statue of sorts. Hey, it's not beyond the realm of plausibility. I lived in Brussels for a year and that sort of thing happens all the time. Statues hidden in little alcoves there, sometimes behind bars, you never know. So I say all this because maybe the day might just so happen to take on a theme. That's right, statues perhaps. So you have to be open to taking the blinders off, soaking up just everything that's going on around you. I don't know, it's a perfect example there, considering a crescent upside down moon on a stone pedestal. So in any event, hey, you've seen the statue, you get back out on the sidewalk there, roll another directional value, and hey, maybe at the end of that time limit, there you reach another statue. Who's to say? That being said, maybe around about that time you've seen this next statue, the city bus rolls up. And what's this? Maybe it just so happens to be the number 11 line or number 56. Who's to say? But that's one of your numbers, so that cries out as a sign. The universe wants you to get on there. Maybe you don't ride the bus ever, if all that often, whatever. So get on there, see what you see. I don't know, maybe you just so happen to have perfect change in your pocket for as much. That would be a synchronicity there, I would say. So ride the bus, get off as soon as you can, and I don't know, maybe again, in number 56 stop you get off on. Who's to say? Things just might start to line up like that. But maybe you get off on your time limit and it's not the number 56 stop and you're not seeing any kind of signs. Maybe there's no statue to be seen. So I would say just look for anomalies. You know, maybe somebody wearing like an orange shirt amidst a sea of otherwise blasé, garments, right? And if you see something like that, something that's crying out to be followed, roll yourself a dice, a time limit value there, and follow that individual. I know it seems a little bit stalkerish, but you know what? Give yourself some breath, a little bit of a buffer there. But hey, maybe even if you do get spotted by them and they confront you, here's the thing. Just be open. Let them know what's going on. Show them your dice and then show them this video. So they'll be like, really? You're really not. You're just using me as something to follow. You know, that's all it is, man. Nothing against you or anything. I'm not spying on you. I'm not trying to stalk you. That being said, you know, maybe they just might be apt to join you. All right, because everybody wants to see, taste, touch, feel, maybe even hear or smell a little bit of magic in this life, I would argue. You know what's great about that is it said that manifestation is even stronger with more people after the same goal, after your daily numbers. So who's to say maybe you guys get out after it and you just start finding more statues. You never know, especially if you find yourself in Brussels. Who's to say? But that being said, I think you get the idea of synchronicity. So let's dive in with your birthday read. All right, your month is December, your day the 26th, your sign is 3 to 5 degrees Capricorn of the Capricorn I period specifically, and your quality and elements is Cardinal Earth. All right, December 26th, the day of the Indomitable One, or impossible to subdue or defeat. I had to look up Indomitable. I wanted to be clear on it. All right, those born on December 26th will not be beaten down. Not uncommonly, they adopt a rebellious stance, particularly in their youth. And because they tend to live on the fringe, or at the very least, oppose the prevailing standards of the day, they can be labeled as troublemakers and attract a measure of hostility and negative energy. Over the years, their outlook usually becomes more conservative, settled, and reserved. But if they remain unfulfilled or on the outside of society, such may not be the case. More highly evolved December 26 individuals even moderate their involvement with issues of power and become more open and accepting. December 26 people are challengers by nature. And the truth or falsehood of a given situation is something to be examined in plain sight, not bandied about casually or avoided for the sake of convenience. And those born on this day are courageous enough to confront issues or areas of existence that others shy away from. Whether in their family, social group, or work situation, they are known as outspoken critics of ignorance and have little patience for flattery or deception. Most often their interests lie in everyday matters and the here and now, rather than the supernatural or metaphysical pursuits. Hard-nosed realists, they are usually known for keeping both feet firmly planted on the ground. The danger exists that December 26 people can get too hard, like a stone that year after year resists the wind and the rain. Finally, they may lose sensitivity to the point of becoming unfeeling, perhaps both personally and in an empathetic sense. And to safeguard us against such a thing happening, December 26 people must consciously allow for their humanness, make an effort to admit their mistakes, and see that the opposing point of view, and perhaps even occasionally admit defeat. In addition, they must, particularly in their late 30s and early 40s, it says in parentheticals, concentrate on remaining open, not only to new experiences, but to following their higher aspirations. December 26 people are rarely in a hurry to get things done. They implement their ideas slowly and carefully and usually do not overreach themselves. And they have an impressive ability to concentrate all of their energy into one area, which makes them devastating opponents and bad enemies to make. However, they can be difficult and intense in love relationships, as they generally must play the dominant role. Serious attempts to wrest this position from them usually meet defeat or cause a breakup. And learning to supply tenderness, kindness, and unconditional love to a mate is a great challenge for December 26 people to meet. Well, all right. Quite the birthday breakdown. I would say it was somewhat narrow of focus, pretty laser on one particular aspect, but then they expanded from there. Typically, that's usually reserved for the sun rulership days there, which today is not. But in this period, they've been doing this more consistently there. But like I said, I would think it was pretty valuable in that they expanded from that one particular narrow focus to kind of give us a nice scope of what was going on there. That being said, I'd like to provide a little bit of a commentary, some notes if you like, on what we read, maybe make some connections to other things I've read in the past or previous days and such. So let's see what I had to say here. All right, December 26th, the day of the Indomitable One. All right, you are people who will not be beaten down. And the reading claims that you may take a rebellious stance in your youth. And because you may live on the fringe of what may be considered normal, at least in social, societal terms, you can attract negative energy and even hostility from others. You're labeled troublemakers, they say, which sounds like a bit of a junk deal, all right? But I'd say it's kind of understandable, to the extent some people aren't even keen. They aren't keen to have the apple cart even bumped, let alone tipped over, all right? And you might just be apt to be someone who does that in so many terms, right? Maybe not literally, but figuratively. But in my experience, you can't even speak to a stranger in the market as if they were familiar without getting weird looks, right? It upsets the status quo. So if you're rebellious of nature, it's probably going to incite some kind of otherwise malevolent reactions. Kind of understandable. That said, the reading claims over time you may level off or reconcile such attitudes to become a little bit more conservative. Or, if unfulfilled in life, such attitudes may in fact carry forward, being challengers by nature, it said. But in the book's relation, you may open up rather and become more accepting, which is funny that you weren't necessarily accepted on your terms. You have to accept the other people's, right? As realistically, it would have been a quicker way for them to nullify your rebellion if they had accepted you, right? All right, because I don't know. By definition, it would no longer be a rebellion if they accepted what you were doing, right? I don't know. Kind of interesting, I thought. All this to say, just because you may acquiesce to in such a respect, some people would see it as a defeat. Oh, you're not really a rebel if you acquiesce, right? I don't know if it would be seen so much as a failure in a certain way of thinking, especially if you still have it in your heart that there's a certain gumption not to shy away from confronting issues in plain sight. I would say that is the essence of what the rebellion was ultimately about. Just an adolescent form of that Puritan energy there, if you like. Maybe your eyes too big for your stomach, say. All right, and here I got to deviate to the book because I had a little bit something extra to write as I was reviewing things. Let's see what I'd say here. You have to accept and be accepted by society on its terms before it begins to accept you on yours, potentially. And then you work your subterfuge from the inside. That's what I say you do, right? For as hard-nosed a realist as you may be, it sounds to me in this rebellious terms, there may be some idealist fundamentals in there also, or else you wouldn't be a rebel, right? So, I don't know, take that idea for what it's worth. But if you don't acquiesce, all right, the reading warns that you may become too hardened by this process, okay? Real danger, I would also argue, and agree with to some extent. But here the reading suggests several solutions to preserve the aspects of your humanity that the hardships of life can affect, especially if you're trying to be rebellious and the world's fighting you. The world's rebelling against your rebellion. So I like that they bring this up, and I would say it's paramount to aim that fighter spirit of yours at preserving those parts of yourself, maybe with even more ardor than the issues you strive to combat. That's right, preserve that humanity, all right? That's party, all right? And one doesn't have to be a martyr, all right? You don't have to die on the cross for these, what do you call it, rebellions of yours, all right? Maybe you want to, but I don't know. But it sounds like no one's going to appreciate it anyway. Who's to say? That being said, that's what I'd say about the breakdown. Little disjointed. I don't typically go back and forth between writing in a book and a notepad, but I had to make myself a little more coherent because I got in those notes the first time and it didn't make any sense. That said, that's been the breakdown, so let's move on to your numbers and your planets. All right, let's get the book centered so I stay in frame a little bit better. Those born on the 26th of the month are ruled by the number 8, and as 2 plus 6 equals 8, and by the planet Saturn, which carries a strong feeling of responsibility and an accompanying tendency toward caution, limitation, and fatalism, or a predisposition for fate there. Indeed, the conservative and fateful tendencies in December 26 people are even more pronounced as their sign, Capricorn, is also ruled by Saturn. Often those ruled by the number 8 build their lives and careers slowly and carefully. And although they may actually be quite warm-hearted, Saturnian influences can make for a cold or forbidding exterior. All right. A little bit of a copy-paste job here with the numbers and planets. They carried some things forward from previous numbers and planets entries, but they did personalize it here for you a little bit too because of the the dual Saturn rulership. So let's dive back into the notes, see what I had to say here. I may have retread myself a little bit there with that ad-lib there. The number 8 in the planet Saturn for a Saturn rulership, which carries strong feelings of responsibility, caution, limitation, and a concern for fate, all right, which, as mentioned, is only compounded for you considering the constrictive planet Saturn is the ruler of your zodiac sign as well. And your day there. Saturn is also in conflict with many other planets. So just from an astrological idea alone, it may stand as a reason to why your rebellious nature is purported, ostensibly. Maybe not the conflict itself, but on account of the frustrations therein derived from as much, okay? Possibly. That said, just because you present with a cold exterior doesn't mean you aren't warm-hearted, all right? And this is presented the past period, too. Some people seem a little standoffish, they say, but don't be judging books by covers, right? May help you understand some seeming disconnects with others, too, if you take that into consideration. And that assumes such a dynamic even applies, right? I know it's something that I deal with, but I had to actually hear somebody tell me I come off standoffish before I even kind of recognized as much or gave some consideration as to why my life worked in certain ways. But that said, maybe that's a first for you hearing it. Maybe it explains some things. Hopefully that's what we're here for. That being said, that's been your numbers and your planets. So let's move on to your tarot. That's right, one of the more eclectic of the New Age metaphysical ideologies, even though it's not all that new. But hey, it's your birthday. Let's see what they have to say. We don't have to take this home with us and start dealing out the cards to predict our future and such. We can just get through it, leave it here in the book. That's right. So let's see what it has to say. The 8th card of the major arcana is Strength or Courage, which depicts a graceful queen taming a furious lion. And the queen symbolizes the female magician who can master rebellious energies and stands for moral as well as physical strength. The card's positive attributes include charisma and determination to succeed. The negative qualities include complacency and the misuse of power. All right. Total copy-paste job here with the tarot today, which is kind of common, but on occasion they'll personalize it a little bit. But I would say they personalize your numbers and planets. That's a little bit of the trade-off there. But what I have to say about your tarot here: strength and courage for mastering rebellious energies, all right? And standing for moral and physical strength. A rather apt card in this particular circumstance, and in an interesting way, I would say. Though we do have to consider how rebellion factors into one's life, if it even applies, right? At least naturally. This might not speak to you at all if you're not rebellious by any stretch of the imagination. To say, are we mastering that rebellion to overcome and abandon those powers, or are we finding a way to better harness and apply them? Kind of an interesting idea there to examine. At least to find more ideal or otherwise productive ends. All right, or are we getting hard-nosed about things? I guess probably what I was getting at there. So not just showcasing or employing those rebellious powers because it's the coolest tool in our bag. All right, why are we doing it? So ideas of negatives rather of complacency and misuse of power might just happen to take on a deeper meaning in those regards, considering all that stuff. Complacency, just, sitting idly by. Got to be aware of inertia, letting the weight of things hold you down. So keep moving, keep considering why you're doing the things you're doing, if you do happen to have that rebellious nature. All right, that being said, that was your tarot, kind of what I had to say about it. Let's move on to your health. All right, your health. Those born on December 26 can have problems with their eliminative and digestive functions. If their metabolism is slow and their body processes take longer than most, they may want to seek advice from an herbal physician, homeopath, or dietist. And generally, increasing fiber and bulk in their diet is beneficial, as well as cutting out much refined flour and sugar as possible. Regular dental checkups are a must to head off tooth problems and possible calcium deficiencies, which can be helped with replacement and vitamin therapy. For women, the use of estrogen therapy in menopause may be helpful if preventing brittle bones in old age, but should be monitored carefully by a physician. Prostate problems can surface for December 26 men who may wish to consult a urologist. Moderate daily or tri-weekly exercise is recommended, particularly those activities that emphasize skeletal flexibility, since increased rigidity with advancing age is commonly encountered. All right. Very interesting and specific health entry today. They tend to be pretty specific, but I don't know. It's a little bit of a deviation here from recent days, because a lot of the recent days had psychological facets here. And today they got really specific about diet and, really specific, and supplements and such. And they don't often do that. So I think I'm getting ahead of myself here. Let's see what the notes have to say here. Whole host of health issues for whatever reason. That being said, the skeleton and the teeth, that seem to be a Capricorn body area. So that might be why those got mentioned specifically. But a digestive and eliminative and prostate for men, kind of an anomaly here. That hasn't come up in so many days. So perhaps take note of that. Generic diet advice they had, but it was specific. They did claim as much, surprisingly, with a focus on pretty specific exercise schedule. Tri-weekly, I think that's the first time that's come up. So that's new. Usually it's about the intensity of the activity, not the regularity of as much. But the intensity here wasn't mentioned. So, or maybe they said moderate. Tri-weekly, moderate. Okay, moderate. No mention of psychological concerns, surprisingly, I might add, though I would have thought in the realm of considering Saturn's influence and dealings with reconciling rebellion would have presented as much, because it certainly did with other days. But maybe that's on account of the Saturn co-rulership. Maybe you just don't have any problems there. Who's to say? Or maybe, perhaps, the diet stuff was just so much more important to relate. I don't know. So maybe consider that. That being said, that's been your health. So let's move on to some advice. All right, your advice. Keep open and maintain flexibility. All right, probably both, in your mindset and physically, considering the skeleton there. Don't be afraid to admit you were wrong. And don't demand absolute allegiance. Such an attitude only arouses resentment. Remember your family and colleagues. Don't harden your heart. All right. Pretty valuable advice, though I think we pretty much drilled down on all of that in some form of fashion between all the different sections here. But what I have to say, keep open and flexible, all right? Don't be rigid. That's what I say, all right? Or as rigid, okay? And I also said don't be afraid to admit you're wrong, all right? This is a Capricorn thing here. Pretty consistent with it. Good advice in general, too, I would say. Cultivating humanity there. You've got it in you, all right? Interestingly, this has also been coming up for the past few days. Cultivating that humanity. And was mentioned as a Capricorn trait, okay? You will not admit you're wrong, okay? Even if you are. It might take years, if ever. But maybe, hey, you know what? You're a rebel. Buck the trend. That's right. You don't like being pigeonholed. I wouldn't argue there. So, hey, you know what? Or maybe I would argue you don't like being pigeonholed. I probably said it completely wrong. In any event, rebellious, seemingly contrarian you're reported to be, buck the trend. All right. Don't demand allegiance. All right. Resentments arise there. Garnering it organically is going to feel better also. And it's going to serve as a smell test for others as well as to whether your ideas are in the right place. If people, they put your allegiance behind you and you didn't ask for it, I would say that that's an organic kind of garnering of as much. And it's going to mean more to you too, right? And especially if it's from people that you admire. So friends and family if they think you're off the mark, then it might be advisable to adjust, all right? But, be judicious about it, not just because that's what they want you to do. If they actually think it's not helping you, I don't know, maybe give it some consideration. Don't harden yourself, what I have to say here. Could be seen as an indication of things getting the better of you, all right, and having power over you. And you don't strike me, based on the breakdown, as somebody who likes things having power over them. Or people, rebellious, contrarian you are there. So yeah, don't let those influences of, just life harden you or have power over you, I would argue. All right, so that's been the advice. Let's move on to meditation. That's right, you get a meditation here today. All right, the most rigid trees are the first to be snapped in the wind. Oh, I like this one for you. Once more, the most rigid trees are the first to be snapped in the wind. All right, there's your meditation. It's your birthday, it's your meditation there. I'm not going to throw some spin or influence on it there for you by giving you my read on as much. Though I do have one. I think it's pretty apparent there. But some of these other days I haven't, surprisingly. So this is the first time I had a read for you. That being said, your meditation in the can, as it were, let's move on to your strengths and your weaknesses. Let's see where you got the muscle mass and where you are atrophied. That's right, your strengths and weaknesses. All right, your strengths, you're careful, you're persevering, and you're methodical. All right, but your weaknesses, can you guess? All right, your weaknesses, you're inflexible. We knew that one. Dominating, we kind of knew that one too, and authoritarian. All right, maybe a little bit we knew that one. I don't know, we could make a dovetail with some of the others. All right, that being said, let's see here, your strengths and weaknesses. I would say your weaknesses, you can probably overcome those with your strengths if you even need to. All right, because I often like to argue that our weaknesses can also be strengths. It just depends on the situation. Inflexible, dominating, authoritarian, hey, sometimes that might be called for, right? That being said, if you do want to bring those down, suppress them a little bit, I think your strengths are going to help you get there. careful, persevering, and methodical, you're going to weed your way through it, all right? So in any event, those have been your strengths and your weaknesses. Oh yeah, the other thing I like to say, hey, our weaknesses make us who we are. So don't abandon them completely, all right? Even though we may be tempted to in some cases. Because it's looked upon negatively by society. Hey, a rebel in you may like to keep them. That's right. So in any event, those have been your strengths and your weaknesses. So let's move on to those born on this day. When we get into those born on this day, not only we get to see who shares your company, but something I like to do is segue into examining, finding out our passions, and drilling down on the idea of doing as much. It's too often to get out in the world and meet folks and ask them what they do, and more importantly, if they like it, and they don't, which is perfectly understandable. You get out of school, right into a job just to put money in the account, keep the roof over your head, food on the table. You don't have time to put into work to figure out your passions, or maybe even figure out what we like to do sometimes. That being said, I think it's important that we're jumping out of bed every day doing backflips and just eager to get into the things we want to do. But it requires time and effort to figure those things out sometimes. So I think this is the perfect opportunity to not only see who shares your company, but see what put them in the book, right? See why they're considered notable. It might not have been their passions, but hey, maybe we can take some inspiration from that if we find we don't have our own passions. Or maybe we do, but we just don't know how to make them financially viable. Hey, that takes a little bit of effort and time to consider as well. So let's get into it, all right? With that in mind, figuring out our passions. All right, we start off with Mao Zedong, a Chinese Communist Party founder, chairman and a dictator, and a writer and a poet. We have Henry Miller, the American expatriate writer of the novel Tropic of Cancer, which was banned as obscene. We also have Susan Butcher, a sled dog racer and a 4-time Iditarod Trail race winner. We also have Carlton Fisk, a Boston Red Sox, Chicago White Sox baseball catcher, all-time home run leader for catchers, and a leader in games caught. At 23 seasons he played. We also have Glenn Davis, an Army 3-time All-American football halfback and a Heisman Trophy winner and 2-time 400-meter Olympic gold medalist. All right, we also have Ozzie Smith, St. Louis Cardinals baseball shortstop. It says Wizard of Oz, might be his nickname there. 12 straight gold gloves, 9-time All-Star game starter. We also have Phil Spector, a promoter, record producer of Beatles fame. We also have Steve Allen, a TV film actor, host, comedian, writer, pianist, composer of over 4,000 songs. We also have Richard Widmark, or Widmark perhaps, film and TV actor, John Schofield, jazz guitarist. We also have George Dewey, a U.S. naval officer and a Spanish-American war hero. We also have Jacques Lezorne, Le Monde chef, editor. We also have Maurice Utiro, a French painter. William Loeb, a newspaper publisher of Union Leader fame. Albert Gore Sr., a U.S. Senator of Tennessee and father of U.S. Vice President. Let's see, we have Lynn Martin, a U.S. Congresswoman of Illinois. Emmett J. Hughes, an independent journalist and writer. And a government consultant, it says. And Richard Archschwager, an artist. Also Thomas Gray, a British 18th century poet. And finally, Rose Mary Woods, Richard Nixon's personal secretary and loyal to the end, it says. All right, pretty interesting. I don't know if I saw too many rebels in there, maybe one or two, but then again, I don't know all these individuals either. That said, I don't know. I don't know if we can take any inspiration from some of these folks. It's a big ask, tall order, at least figure out our passions from as much. But hey, maybe it just serves as a little bit of fuel for the fire there. Stir up the embers if you like. Because if there's anything I can wish for you on your birthday, it's that you are getting inspired to start chasing after your passions or putting in the time to figure them out. That's right. Because we should be eager to jump into our day and get fulfillment out of life, I would argue. That's right. So in any event, that being said, that essentially rounds out your birthday read. Except to say your season is winter, your sign once again is Capricorn, of the Capricorn I period specifically. And your quality and element is Cardinal Earth. Now, what is that? Well, that's a different video altogether. I'll leave it at the end there for you to click on if you're interested in finding out more. With that being said, this has been December 26th, the day of the Indomitable One. That's right. From The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and you Stelfers. I have an affiliate link for this book down in the description if you're interested in picking up a copy for yourself. Let me tell you, it makes a great coffee table book. Something to throw out during parties or when you have company over to help get the ice broken, all right? You might not see it as something that you liked, but you know what? Sometimes you read a birthday for somebody else and you can see whether it describes them or not. Kind of see where their heads or gears are spinning there to see if it really matches up. And I don't know, it's just interesting sometimes. That being said, though, not altogether all too poor with the book there. What is important is it's someone's birthday. That's right. Wishing you a happy birthday again, like I said at the top. So happy birthday, all right? That being said, for everybody else that joined us, hey, I hope you enjoyed yourself, you took something from it, and you're eager to hear your own birthday read. So I hope you join us for that. But lest I forget, before I take us out here, your daily numbers, all right? Get out there, let the magic show and present itself to you. And if at the very least, try weekly exercise and get some of them steps in, even if you're not seeing statues. I know it said you weren't someone who likes the metaphysical and the supernatural type stuff, but hey, you know what? Get outside your comfort zone. Might be something fun to do with somebody that doesn't cost a lot of money. Hey, you know what? Get out there, expand your horizons, I would say. That being said, once again, happy birthday, all right? And take care of yourselves. Stay rebellious, but don't get hard or rigid, all right? It's not good for your skeleton, ostensibly. All right. Happy birthday.